Yo, yo, yo. Can you guys hear me? I think you guys can hear me. Okay. I hope you guys can hear me. Yo, how you doing, Imperial Activity? It's so good to see you, fam. Thank you so much for coming out. Let's go. Trying to see if I can get this going over here. Don't know why my all sound good? All right, good, good, good. I'm glad. Thank you, fam. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for always being active. Appreciate you. Hope you're doing well. Oh, trying to do the live on the whatchamacallit again? On YouTube. So I got it both on YouTube. Today I got my Squadron. I love it. Oh, it's so nice. It's so sick. I got it with the entire. I don't know what they're called. Damn it, man. But yeah, I got the jacket too. I'm waiting for it to get actually cold, but it doesn't ever get cold down here in Florida. So, you know, you know. Oh man, one thing. I hope you. How you guys doing though? How you guys doing? Yo, predecessors and acolytes coming into the Dark Temple. Visited by Mara Jade, Luke Skywalker, and Kyle Katarn, and so many Force sensitives like yourself. I am Lord Dagavir, and now we are here, fam, to talk about the good stuff in Star Wars, man. We'll see how long this one does, and I'm still trying to figure out what is the best way to stream to YouTube Shorts and also Instagram to see what we're gonna do. But thank you so much, Imperial, for coming out here. Thank you so much, Texas Yankee fam. So good to see you all. I really wanted to talk about ancient Sith lords today in general because I feel like ancient Sith lords in general are really interesting to talk about, especially when we want to talk about like Marco Ragnos, Naga Sadao, Ludo Kresh, not so much, but Frieda Nad, and of course Exar Kun are really all very interesting, especially the way that they're depicted in the Tales of the Jedi comics. But Imperial says the best place to be here on Tuesday evening here in the temple. Even the Imperial like me. Let's go. Yes, sir. Yes, yes, yes. I love to hear it. I'm the unofficial channel remote audio engineer. I love to see that, fam. Yo, what's up, fam? So good to see. Thank you so much for coming over here. Going to be talking about some ancient Sith lords today. It's going to be really fun. I've actually the reason why I've been talking about a lot of the Tales of the Jedi stuff is because I've been rereading them, and it's some of the most fun comics, man. It's some of the most enjoyable comics, and a lot of those comics were created back in like 1994, 1995, 1996, all the way through 1999, and it really makes me wonder whether or not a lot of it gave inspiration to the prequels since they were so early in the development of Star Wars. And it's really interesting, especially when you start to read and see what happens with Exar Kun and Exar Kun specifically, just about how the Sith are, man. It's just really interesting to see how dynamic of a character Exar Kun is, and his progression into the downfall and his eventual turn to the dark side. Which I felt like, every time I read it, I always feel like it's very similar to Anakin. Mr. Walk says, "Can I see the action figures in the back?" Yeah, so we have the Funko stuff and other action figures, and as well as the X-wing stuff. To the left, YouTube sees that as well, and then the right is a lot of the Legos, Mando helmet and lightsabers, and I have the other stuff that's going to be coming out this way. I got two statues. I have the Revan statue that I'm supposed to be getting this holiday season, whenever that's going to be, whenever they're going to give that to me, whenever it's going to ship out. The Revan one is supposed to be coming really quick, and then the Ahsoka, the white one, so I'm really excited to get that. Texas says, I'm just getting off work, and you're going to be my company on the way home. Let's freaking go. It's what's crazy is I used to have a podcast. I don't even know if you can really call it a podcast, but it was called Unlock the Knowledge, and it was all about Star Wars, and that's all I talked about, and it was on Spotify. It was anywhere you could listen to Audible, or anywhere you could listen to podcasts, was where I was able to put that thing. But I stopped. I stopped because I felt like I wasn't necessarily I don't know, like, not that I was like bad or anything. It was just I really do feel like a podcast is more people, more than one person, if that makes any sense. And I feel like I don't know, man. Really annoying. Thank you, Mr. Walker. I appreciate the compliment. Yes, and the whole reason why I set up the room this way is because one, I've always wanted a Star Wars, like room. I don't know if you guys have ever seen some of the stuff on like TikTok or something or online where someone is like really gets into their man cave, right? And I've always really wanted like a Star Wars cantina slash like theater area just to have all these things because I'm just I want to do that. I don't know when that's going to happen, but I would love to do that one day. And when it comes to the podcast and stuff, I always felt like a podcast should be more than one person, but I'm the guy, I'm just the only person. I'm just me. There isn't anyone else that I really have in real life that I could do that with or online. So it kind of demotivated me to not want to do Star Wars podcasts, but I feel like I'm missing out, especially when you stop making content. I feel like when you stop making content, it's never a good thing, especially if you want to talk Star Wars. So you always got to keep it up. You should get some LED lights. LED lights, I feel like a lot of people really enjoy. I used to have a lot of them because, the streamer stuff, everybody always likes to do that. But at the same time, I feel like there's other ways to be creative because when you see LED lights, everyone's always using them. Imperial Activity says, I'm still sub the Temple Audio Pod. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'll probably pick it up again. I'm just not sure when exactly. The whole point of me doing the streams and the watch parties as well as the shorts for Star Wars is just because I want to try to create the community. I really want to delve in and get people in and get excited to do these watch parties. Because that's what I want. That's why I started the channel in general, is because I wanted people to talk Star Wars with. And so that's why I'm doing this all the time. Vahel Heathen says there's some action figures up there at the top. That's cool. Yes. Yeah, I got some Funkos and I got some lightsabers on the side. I'm still trying to figure out where exactly I should kind of do this entire thing. I feel like I would like to stand. Maybe I'll stand one day. I'm not even sure if I can do that. I don't know. Maybe I can, but it's going to take a lot of me figuring out how the hell to work everything on my desk. But I think the coolest part, I don't even know if everybody on the actual stream can see, but the coolest part for me has been, let's kind of do this 1 second. The most recent edition. I don't know if you guys see the Nihilus and everything else in the Star Wars Encyclopedia. So you guys get a little bit of that, and I'll show now to the phone. So I got Nihilus over here, I got the Encyclopedia, I got the Ahsoka stuff over there, and the the whole wall over there, which I really love, just because the pictures are there, and Mando as well, Mando's helmet, which I really love. But how many of you have actually read a lot of the Tales of the Jedi stuff? I know a lot of people are doing the new canon, and I know I like the new canon. I actually just got sent out a book from Star Wars, which is really crazy because they haven't sent me anything in like over a year. When the High Republic first shipped off, I was getting a lot of the books. I got like their first phase. I got like Light of the Jedi. Did I get Light of the Jedi? Yes, I got Light of the Jedi. I got a few others, and some of their young adult novels that they gave me. And they would give me like one book every once in a while because I'm not a large creator. I'm just a random scrub dub on the internet. I just got lucky enough for them to acknowledge me. And I recently ended up getting... one second, everything. Okay. I recently ended up getting another email from them, which was really awesome, and they sent me out the new stuff. And the new book doesn't come out till the 24th of September, and it's actually pretty solid. It's actually one of the books that I've actually really enjoyed, because I haven't been enjoying the last phase of the High Republic as much as the initial ones, but that was really cool for them to acknowledge me and send it. Imperial Activity says, back in the mid-90s, I was the first to run issues of Tales of the Jedi comics. Oh, really? That's pretty cool. I love seeing them in real life, because a lot of the stuff that I usually see is usually like electronic. On the comics, the Marvel comic apps that they have now, and I don't think a lot of people really have ever read those comics. I know there's a lot of people that watch YouTube videos about the stories of Exar Kun and the ancient Sith Lords. Everybody's really obsessed about the ancient Sith Lords because, that entire spiel is what Kreia says in Knights of the Old Republic. And everyone's always talking about that one line because Kreia talks about how, oh my god, the ancient Sith Lords are so powerful compared to us. We're basically like children playing with toys compared to how the prowess of these masters. And I don't think really anybody kind of understands what's actually happening, and when she says that, especially when you look at the villains, the characters that come from that entire game. Nihilus, Darth Zion, and Traya, even characters that come from the first game, like Darth Revan and Darth Malak, and the Star Forge, and the amplification, how amplified Malak's power is when you fight him at the end of Knights of the Old Republic 1. And then, of course, how powerful Jedi form, or the canon version of Revan, is at the end of that game, too, because of how powerful Darth Malak is. And then, of course, in Knights of the Old Republic 2, everyone talks about Nihilus and how powerful he is and how he's a world eater. When, yes, he is extremely powerful, but he also has an extremely powerful weakness. And Treyas alludes to that a lot in that video game. But the one thing a lot of people kind of misunderstand is that, those characters that come before that video game are more powerful than a lot of the characters that are actually in that game. Even some of the writers have even talked about that too, how, like, we like Darth Nihilus. Darth Nihilus is very powerful, but he's actually not as powerful as Naga Sadow. And then if he's not as powerful as Naga Sadow, then that means he's not as powerful as Frida Nad. And if he's not as powerful as Frida Nad, then he's not as powerful as Exar Kun. And that's the whole reason why I wanted to talk about the ancient Sith Lords, because there's this whole power gap thing, and there's this whole interesting way that how they affect everybody around them when they're dead. And it's really interesting how, you have Force ghosts, but then there's also Sith spirits, and a lot of the Sith spirits are really utilized a lot in a very, very, very interesting way in those comics. And also, of course, we had talked about the last time I made the presentation, we talked about, of course, the rise of the Sith Empire, right? The golden age of the Sith Empire, then the eventual downfall of the Sith Empire, which is something that I've been wanting to talk to you guys about in general. And it's so much, but it's all connected, and it eventually influences the Knights of the Old Republic games, and then you finally get to see how that turns into the Rule of Two and the Darth Bane trilogy. And then, of course, from the Rule of Two, we got Master and Apprentice, all the way up to Plagueis and Darth Sidious, and then to the prequels. So that's why I love usually rereading those comics and just see how everything starts, how the building blocks are. It's like the pillars of the foundation of the dark side in Star Wars, and it's really, really interesting. David Torres, thank you so much for coming here, fam. I appreciate it. By the way, can I get a ready up inside the chat from everybody? Thank you so much, Imperial Activity, Texas, David Torres, Mr. Walk, of course, and Bahol. Thank you so much for coming over here, fam. Everyone loves Revan and Cal Kestis. I'm still obsessed with Darth Maul and Anakin, Darth Vader. Yeah, I'm the same way. I mean, I'm not really big on Cal Kestis per se. I like Cal Kestis. I do enjoy the video games. I think Jedi Survivor is awesome. I think Jedi Fallen Order was great. I really love those games. But I haven't really been so fixated on a character, I think, for a video game in a very long time for Star Wars. Just because of Knights of the Old Republic and the Star Wars Old Republic MMO, I really enjoyed that. A lot of people love Galaxies, Star Wars Galaxies. They think Star Wars Galaxies is like one of the greatest RPGs that they've ever played. I never really got to play that. I didn't even have a computer when I was younger. I really didn't start playing PC games until I was like 24, 25, when I was able to buy a PC for myself. And that was around the time that Star Wars The Old Republic came out, and I loved it. I literally just sunk into it every single night that I'd come back from work, 12-hour shifts, go on to the Imperial Fleet Cantina, or also Nar Shaddaa, which was really fun. Really enjoyed those games, man. They were so fun. Fallen Order was great. Fallen Order was amazing. But yeah, I really do love a lot of those characters. I just got really attached to my character playing those stories. That was really enjoyable. I absolutely love that, and I'm yearning for a new experience like that today, because I feel like we haven't gotten it. Outlaws is really fun. I do enjoy Outlaws. I think a lot of people kind of like are drinking the haterade for Outlaws. I understand why they don't like it, but I definitely feel like the game is better than what they're saying. It's not perfect by any matter of the stretch. It really is a solid Star Wars game. I don't think it's amazing. I just think that it's a solid Star Wars game. So, ancient Sith Lords, man. Ancient Sith Lords. Now, what's really interesting, what we talked about, of course, was this discovery, right, of Korriban, the exile of the Dark Jedi after the the second great schism. And we talked about that, of course, because the Jedi Order is created. Then, of course, there's a civil war between the Jedi and the Dark Jedi. They're fighting over ideals. They're fighting over Ashla and Bogan, which is the light side and the dark side. Someone discovers it or becomes aware of it, and then they want to start, using it and experimenting with it. And they realize that one side realizes that this is the dark side. We probably shouldn't be doing this. And then, of course, that causes a whole war. Now, those exiles, they lose that war, and they get excommunicated, isolated. They're banished. And we talked about that and how they're basically sent into uncharted space, unknown space at the time. And it's very hard to do this voyage because there isn't really a lot of hyperspace technology. It's really terrifying for them to just literally go out there and drive their ships into the unknown. And then, of course, where these Dark Jedi find themselves is actually in the Sith Empire, the Sith People Empire. And it's really interesting to see that when they show up, they conquer them. They become the first ever Dark Lords of the Sith because the Sith people cherish them, praise them as gods because their power is so strong. And the Sith people are also very strong too. They have a natural affinity for the dark side of the Force. And that's what makes it so interesting. And this is where really the ancient Sith Lords really begin. This is where it starts, and I really like to see more of just how the origins had started with the ancient Sith Lords. I think it's really fun. I think it's really interesting how basically everything that had come out from this was so, how can I say, influential. I think there's a lot of obsessions, including myself, with the ancient Sith Lords, right? And what I don't think a lot of people understand is how powerful they are after death. And we see a lot of that, we see how the Force Ghosts in general, they're very powerful throughout all of Star Wars. There's someone's doing something in Star Wars where Anakin Skywalker comes back from the dead. He brings back Ahsoka. In my head canon, Ahsoka was dead, and then he goes into the world between worlds. Finishes her training. And somewhat brings her back alive, right? And then of course you have Obi-Wan Kenobi, who's helping teach Luke destroy the Death Star, and then teaching him through Yoda, and then being there on Dagobah. And then of course Luke Skywalker, lifting up the X-wing and all these things. In all iterations of Force Ghosts, they are very powerful, way more, and they have much more freedom and power, in my opinion, than a Sith ghost does, a Sith spirit. But these Sith in the comics, man, are so interesting. Like Marco Ragnos. Marco Ragnos dies, right? He's dead. And this is the point of the Sith Empire, where the Sith Empire is freaking out now because Marco Ragnos was so powerful that this entire culture that was basically on civil war was just fighting each other the entire time, to the point where it was like barbarism. They were just completely fighting each other no matter what, struggling for power. Everybody was trying to betray and rule each other. This guy was so powerful that they didn't do that as much around him. And so the moment he dies, you have these two guys, Ludo Kresh and Naga Sadow. And Naga Sadow sees himself as the self-proclaimed Dark Lord of the Sith, the new leader of the Sith. And he wants to go out and conquer the Republic. He wants to go out and find their old ancient enemies of the Jedi. They don't even know where they exist, by the way, because remember, they're all on the other side of space. And Ludo Kresh doesn't want that to happen because Ludo Kresh really feels like, you are taking this role of Dark Lord of the Sith. You have this title, you're self-proclaiming yourself as this new leader, when our leader just died, and we all should be figuring out who really should be the new leader. And they're about to fight, Marco Ragnos and Ludo Kresh. And as they're about to fight and kill each other, Marco Ragnos literally manifests himself from the spiritual force plane of beyond to stop their fighting and says, no. And shows them this vision about the Jedi and everything that's going to be happening in the next couple arcs of comics. And it's really interesting how that happens, because that is a very omnipotent power to do. I don't even want to say angelic, but Sith, especially when it comes to the dark side and their abilities, they're not really supposed to live after death. You know, that's a Jedi trait. That is a Jedi ability. That's what Jedi train and learn to do. You know, including Yoda, including Qui-Gon Jinn. You know, that is supposed to be the be all ability. And Mark Aragnos isn't like immortal by any means. It just seems like he's a ghost. He's there. He's attached because the Sith people also are. You know, they praise the dead. Korriban specifically is like a ghost town. That is literally an entire planet filled with graveyards, right? And so they have all these tombs, and the tombs give all these spirits, dark side spirits, power. And that's why someone like Mark Aragnos is able to manifest himself. Because not only do the Sith people have that natural affinity for the dark side, not only does the planet have that natural affinity for the dark side, which is essentially giving him the source of power, that energy. Now he's able to do that. He's able to do something that a lot of other Sith can't do. And he's also very powerful. So it's not like every other Sith on that planet can do that same thing. He really is an outlier. He really is someone that is one of the more powerful dark side users in the entire timeline of Star Wars. And that's why it's really important. You know, yeah, where's the Sith cloak? Yeah, the Sith cloak, we're saving that for watch parties because I live in Florida and it's 90 degrees here and I don't want to melt. I don't want to die. So I'm trying to keep myself, even right now, I'm already sweating because of the lights in this room. So, yeah, man, that's how it is. But if you guys have any questions about the comics or anything or what I'm talking about, because I know a lot of you probably haven't read the comics and everything. If you're lost, please, man, there's no bad question. I'm just talking. I just want to talk to people about Star Wars and the shit I've learned, the shit I've known for years, and then I talk in my videos. But yeah, I want to talk about. I just like talking Star Wars with you guys. You know, that's all. I need to get some water though. 1 second. So, as this is happening, right? We have Naga Sadow and we have Mark Aragnos. We have Mark Aragnos coming back from the dead as a spirit, and then of course we have Ludo Kresh. Ludo Kresh is kind of I don't really like his character too much. He's kind of like a baby, you know. He really is. I don't like. I mean, I think that his decision making makes sense. He does not want Mark Aragnos to lead the Sith. And he does not want Naga Sadow to lead the Sith. And honestly, that makes sense. Naga Sadow is coming out like a power-hungry monster, and he is. He also has a lot of agenda. He has a lot. He's very, very ambitious, and I think in the wrong way. Texas Yankee says, "What is the first comic I should read? I haven't read any." So I think Tales of the Jedi is a very interesting comic to read because it's completely detached from like everything that you know of Star Wars, and it's like one of the very first Star Wars stories ever in chronologically in the timeline. So if you want to start at that point, that's basically point zero. You could start right there. You can find the comics online. You could probably find the comics at a comic book store if you want. But I think what's really awesome about the Tales of the Jedi series is that they are connected to the overarching story of like the Old Republic, and that eventually leads into the movies. So it's really cool. Let's say that when you watch the prequel trilogy, right? You start at episode 1 and you see Palpatine and the dark side and the Sith. You're going to understand what that means to be a Sith. You're going to understand what that means and like the heritage and the legacy of that culture of the Sith, how it first started. And I think that's a really amazing way to kind of lead yourself into the rest of the franchise. I don't necessarily think like it's like the best comic book series out there, or the best one for a beginner. But if you want to start at point A and all the way head into, you know, Z, I think that's probably a really good opportunity is to start there. Usually what I do if it's a franchise, I try to get into like my favorite character or my favorite movie. Yeah, no problem, Texas Yankee. I think that usually comics surrounding around your favorite character or your favorite movie are also really good. So it all depends. You know, it really all depends on what you want. But I'm really enjoying Tales of the Jedi series again and my reread, and it's fun as hell, man. Like it really is. It's just so fun to see everything. And there's a lot of like original ideas in that comic book, like stuff that you would think like, oh wow, like this is like 1995, 1996. They thought about these things back then. Yeah, they did. It was really fun. It was really great. um, yeah, man, I really enjoy it. What is this? Why is that? Oh, interesting. It's the reflection of the phone? That's hilarious. You guys can see the chat. That's crazy. That's funny. Because my phone is right there and it was reflecting. That's so crazy. But yeah, I think those are really fun. I just really enjoy reading a lot about the Sith. I think that when you follow the Sith, I think the Sith, in my opinion, they have better stories, they have better characters, they have just a better overview of the Star Wars story. If you want to follow Jedi and how the Jedi operate and what the Jedi do, I think it's not as fun. I don't think it's as enjoyable. And the reason why I don't think it's as enjoyable is just because the characters, when you're reading the story, I think the Jedi struggle to really show yourself like, hey, this is what Star Wars is about. And I think that's actually why so many people love the Sith. And I think that's why so many people love characters like Exar Kun or Darth Bane. There's a lot of amazing Sith books out there that are revered in the dark side, that are focused on the dark side. And right at the top of my head, like some of the most amazing books that I think about all the freaking time is Darth Plagueis novel and the Bane trilogy. Those are Sith books. Some of the best comics I always think about are, of course, the Tales of the Jedi series. That's Sith. So it's really interesting to see how I understand why so many people love the Sith and why the Sith fan base has always created this hatred for the Jedi. Bugsy says, came to say hello before I take a nap. Also, have you read Star Wars, the Republic comics? Star Wars, the Republic? The Old Republic? Is there a Republic comics? I feel like, because I know the Old Republic comics, which go into, which is what I'm getting into after the reread of the Tales series. But those are really interesting too. Nope, the Republic. So I'm going to see this. I want to see if this is... Yeah, because a lot of the OT stuff, or the Clone Wars stuff, I've kind of steered away because it was just so saturated. There was so much. Star Wars, the Republic comics. Interesting. Oh yes, this is 2004. Yeah, so these came right out. Yeah, this is old. This is It's so funny that this is kind of old school Dark Horse, but it's really not. First one I see is Kiadi Mundi. There's a couple of them too that I was reading. That was actually official Star Wars comics from like 1998, right before the movies were coming out, and Kiadi Mundi and Platoon were in there, and I actually made a video on it because it was just talking about it called Qui-Gon Jinn a gray Jedi. And it's so funny how so many people, including myself, where it's like, oh, gray Jedi stuff is just a fan-made thing. But then you start looking at like the Star Wars Old Republic campaign guide, and then of course that comic, which that comic actually has the first ever, in my opinion, talk about just like the gray Jedi and what they're referring to. But he doesn't, like, the way the Wookiee character says it, which I think is Platoon's master, if I remember correctly. He was talking about how, Qui-Gon Jinn is kind of seen as like a gray Jedi, but not in a sense like where he used the dark side. It was just that Qui-Gon was someone who openly defied everything, so they didn't see him as like a generic Jedi. They saw him as an outcast, almost. He was very unique, very different, and I think that's why he was labeled as a gray Jedi. So yeah, that's just really interesting, really, really fun. But yeah, the 2004 comics, I'm definitely going to check out, because I want to just get into the Old Republic first and then progress into everything else, because the Old Republic is so fun, man. I just feel like it thrives no matter what. Every time you read a lot of the Old Republic stuff, it's just so good. especially the old Tales comics, man. And again, like I was saying, they're so old. The Tales of the Jedi comics are so old that a lot of people don't necessarily read them anymore. They've kind of just watched YouTube videos and they haven't necessarily talked about everything else. Um, yes, Alpha 17. Yes, yes, that whole entire story, the invasion of Camino, which is interesting too about Camino. I think, especially if the with the old Battlefront games and the Kaminoans fighting back with other clones. You know, and it's really interesting to see that. Yeah, man. I found it really enjoyable. I love a lot of the comics and everything, but